Hello, writers. Fantastic books and how to write them here. What are we talking about today? Today, we are talking about my favorite book ever, Enchanted. Now, if if you have never read the book but have seen the movie, first of all, smack yourself. And after you smack yourself, go read the book and try to forget the movie because the movie is a travesty, which I hate saying because I like Anne Hathaway as an actress. She's a good actress. That was a horrible representation of the story, though. They changed so many things, and there was really nothing that needed to be changed. It's not a long story. So, yeah, definitely read the book. Just forget the movie ever existed. So, I have read this book probably about 20 times or so. Sounds about right. And that's not a common for me. I'm not a fast reader because I'm a very analytical reader. I like to pay attention to every word, every detail, and analyze the shit out of it. Excuse my language. And I also like to edit as I'm reading. Okay, let me rephrase that. I don't actually like to do it. I am compelled to edit as I'm reading. So that slows me down quite a bit. So reading a book over and over again is not the norm for me. It usually takes me a while to get through any book, but this one, there we go. This one I've read many, many times. Now, granted, as you can see, it's not a really big book. It is like 232 pages, and the print is not huge, but it's also not tiny either. So this is not a large book by any means. And it's in chapters, so you've got some pages where there's a lot of blank space there. But still, it is a book, and books take time. So why have I read this like 20 times? You may ask. Or it may just be me asking because I want to talk about it. So go along for the ride. Multiple reasons for this. One thing is relatability. And I know we've talked about that already, so I'm not going to go on about it. But relatability is a key component to this book. The main character, the primary character, this person right here, is relatable. She's not the only one that's relatable either, so that makes it good too. So that's one thing. Another thing, it's easily digestible. I can appreciate works like Dante's Inferno and Paradise Lost and things that are flowery. Let's put it that way, flowery. I can appreciate that, but if you're going to want to revisit a work, it's gonna need to be more digestible than that. Otherwise, you're gonna go a little batty. This is not very flowery. The writing is pretty conservative in that way. It is very easy to read. I'd say it's pretty on par with Harry Potter in terms of like readability. Maybe just a teensy bit simpler than that in terms of the subject matter, at least. If you don't know anything about this story whatsoever, it is a Cinderella retelling. And I know that there are like a dime a dozen of those, that there are so many Cinderella retellings out there, it's ridiculous. This is definitely my favorite retelling out of all of them. I've read a bunch that weren't so hot, seen movies that weren't so hot, but this one really does something special. Now, I don't want to give any spoilers out in case you haven't read it yet, because you really should. But I'll read you the synopsis here because it's super short and sweet. At her birth, Ella of Frel was given a foolish fairy's gift, the gift of obedience. Ella must obey any order given to her, whether it's hopping on one foot for a day or chopping off her own head. But strong-willed Ella does not tamely accept her fate. She goes on a quest, encountering ogres, giants, wicked stepsisters, fairy godmothers, and handsome princes, determined to break the curse and live happily ever after. Pretty simple, right? So easy to read. That's another thing that's important. I also like fairy tale retellings, so that may be a place where you and I potentially diverge, depending on what your reading interests are like. But I do like fairy tales, and I do like fairy tale retellings when they're done well, which probably doesn't happen all that often, but when they are done well like this, I really do appreciate a reimagining of those stories. Another reason that I really like this story is because it's incredibly character focused. And I know this isn't going to appeal to everyone. Some people are more about the world and the systems within it, whether it be a political system, a magic system, a school system, whatever. I am a reader and a writer who really likes to focus on the characters, and this book definitely pays more attention to its characters and the emotions of those characters than it does to its settings. There is some world building in here. It is a completely made up world. I think there's even like a little map in here somewhere. I won't look for it now. And there are different races in the book. There are elves, there are giants, unicorns. Pegasus is one of those. So there are other races in there. There's even some made up languages in here. Pretty simplistic made up languages, and not a lot of it in the book. So it's not a lot going on there, but depending on the copy of the book you have, mine has a section here that will outline the different words that are used in the book and tell you their meanings. So it's pretty simple, but it's there. But again, it's really about the characters in this book. It's about the characters' emotions. It's about the characters' motivations. It's about the characters' journey. Specifically Ella. But the secondary characters are well fleshed out too. There's the stepmother and the stepsisters. There's the prince. There's her mother. There's the maid. There are various characters that reoccur throughout the story that, they're not the primary drivers, but they definitely help things move and they help keep things interesting. So those are a handful of reasons why I have read this book 20 times, possibly more than that, and I really recommend that you read it too. And I know this is a different style because we're a writing podcast. We're not a book review podcast. That's not generally what we do. But this is a book that I feel really strongly about. Ella Enchanted, by Gail Carson Levine. It's been out for a long time. Should be really easy to find at your local library or Barnes & Nobles or wherever the heck you go for your books. Definitely recommend you give it a shot. If you enjoyed a video of this style, this format, this kind of topic, sound off in the comments below. If you didn't really care either way, that's okay too. Sound off in the comments. Let me know that you didn't care. Until next time.